If I asked you to name 3 ancient civilizations, you'd probably be thinking of the Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, maybe even the Carthaginians or Persians. But surprisingly, the oldest, longest lasting, and most influential civilization is often neglected. That of the Sumerians. Emerging over 7,500 years ago, the Sumerians were among the first to develop a large-scale agricultural economy, draining the marshes for farming, establishing industries like weaving, masonry, and pottery, and setting up trade routes throughout the region. But where did they come from? What was their language like? And why is their existence so mysterious? We begin in the year 3100 BC, just in time to witness something truly miraculous. Not the birth of some great king or an epic battle, it's something much more important that has implications for all of us right now. The birth of writing. In the space of 1,000 years, Sumerian scribes gradually evolved writing from pictographic etchings into a fully fledged writing system, namely cuneiform. You see, inventions like this are vanishingly rare, and it's theorized that writing has only been invented independently by humans around 4 times. Sumerian cuneiform worked in a similar way to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, in the sense that it included 2 types of sign, pictograms and syllabic signs, and in that auxiliary signs, called determinatives, help to clarify the semantic class of the words. For the Sumerians, writing enabled them to capture art and literature, publicize legislation, and conduct diplomacy, and was an invention they shared with the Akkadians, Babylonians, Hittites, Egyptians, Phoenicians, basically all the ancient civilizations. Unlike their mainly Semitic and Indo-European speaking neighbours, the Sumerians spoke a language isolate, and despite tenuous links having been made between Sumerian and various Dravidian and Austroasiatic languages, none of these have been proven, and it's likely that similarities between Sumerian and, say, Proto-Harappan emerged not due to genetic relation, but from proximity and trade. That being said, we do know that Sumer was formed upon the merging of these 3 distinct cultures, so make of that what you will. Speaking of grammar, Sumerian was up there with its verbal and nominal morphology on par with that of Latin or Greek. It had 2 genders, the human and non-human, split ergativity, was agglutinative in morphology, meaning prefixes and suffixes were added to words that altered their meaning, and contained the following cases. With Sumerian there were 3 types of grammatical number, the singular, plural, and collective, with adjectives being formed from verbal roots in their past participle form, as shown here. They could also be reduplicated like so, to intensify the meaning. And when it comes to verbs, whilst Indo-European languages like English base their systems around tense, the Sumerian verbal system was predominantly aspect-orientated, meaning a distinction between whether an action is completed or ongoing. And verbs are structured in a so-called verbal chain, where various affixes, arranged in a set order, modify the verbal stem, with Sumerian verbs also agreeing with the subject and object in person, number, and gender. In terms of modality, these were the affixes used. And so that you can get a feel of what the language was like, here is a short sample. As you might have been able to make out from the example, Sumerian had SOV word order, with the verb final placement being almost never broken. And in terms of phonology, due to our knowledge of both Old Persian and Akkadian, we've been able to reconstruct the following consonants. Instead of being differentiated by voicing, many consonants in Sumerian have aspirated and unaspirated variations, shown here by the little h. And these were the vowels. Sumerian continued to be spoken as a vernacular until around 2000 BC, when due to famine, floods, and internal conflicts, the neighbouring Semitic-speaking Akkadians took the opportunity to seize power, gradually giving rise to the Akkadian language. That's not to say though that Sumerian just ceased to exist. In fact, the Akkadians and Sumerians kind of merged into one culture, Akkadian serving as a vernacular, and Sumerian as a mainly liturgical and scholarly language. For that reason, despite Akkadian giving it a pretty good run for its money, Sumerian was widely used by scribes until 600 BC, and as a classical language all the way up to around 100 AD, meaning that it was used in some form or another for over 4,000 years, which is quite remarkable. Anyway, that's all for this week. If you found this video informative, like it, subscribe, and don't forget to tune in for next week's episode.